I found another video online from another ham radio operator with a YouTube channel, and I will put links to his video and his channel in the description below. But K3JRZ was calling CQ POTA on a frequency that he checked, that he said is the frequency in use. Several times it was not. He was running a POTA, he was doing a QRP POTA, and he was working stations, and then Net Control just started talking over him. Reasons that I shall refrain from saying out loud on this video. Okay, so once again, guys, who owns the frequency? Who owns the frequency? This was posted. I have a Discord server, and this was posted to my Discord server. I have a channel in my Discord server for other YouTubers to post their videos, and that's where I found this video from K3JRZ, and this is a pretty good video. It falls in line with several of the Maritime Mobile Net videos that I've posted about in the past. This was not Maritime Mobile Net. In fact, this was on 10 meters. This was on 10 meters. So I don't know what net, I don't think he ever actually says what net interfered with him, but some net somewhere interfered with him, and he handled it very well. I'm going to put it that way. He handled it very well. Probably better than I would have, and we're going to look and see exactly what he did with that right now. So check this out. Fast forwarded in the video until the part that we want to talk about today.
Let's tell the 5-6. All right, well, the video shifted, so we got two conversations going, so I'm out of here. AG7QH.
This is the station he just worked on POTA.
But I am probably lower power. 7-3.
I think I heard him say net frequency, and he's doing POTA. I think that's what I heard. Now, this is the FX4CR radio, which is a neat little radio that I own myself. I want to take it out and do POTA, but the ears on it may not be as good as, you know, maybe your ICOM or something like that radio. So let me see if I can get a little bit more of that in the shot there. There we go. Just a touch. So the ears on it may not be quite as good, but this is 10 meters. This is 10 meters, okay? And there's not as much activity on 10 meters as there is on 20.
All right. I could barely hear him now, this other station. But I could barely hear him, and he could get bent.
Putting it nicely. Okay, so this guy that you can hear talking right now, this is the guy that K3JRZ just worked. So this is the POTA hunter that he just worked.
You had a net scheduled. None of them do. And it is illegal to key up and intentionally run over somebody.
Yes, it is. Okay, this is awesome right here. Subpart B from Part 97.101 General Standards. Each station licensee and each control operator must cooperate in selecting transmit channels and making the most effective use of the amateur service frequencies. No frequency will be assigned for the exclusive use of any station. And Part D, no amateur shall willfully or maliciously interfere with or cause interference to any radio communication or signal. The net heard me and interfered. I did not hear them. That's the text in red is what he put in this little screen cap, this overlay that he did. So that brings up a good question. If you're calling CQ on a frequency and the net just starts and runs over the top of you, who's at fault? Okay. let's go. This is really good.
Just like you did to run them off. He was racist enough to, when he heard that I could hear you, he was going to move, and you had your head inverted so far, you couldn't wait. You're not talking to me. You're definitely not talking to me.
Can't really hear that net station at all. Most of these net control operators are pretty loud also, so I'm surprised we can't hear this guy.
Michael, you rock.
You gotta walk away from the radio before you reply.
AG7QH, thank you.
Yeah, that's why you kept it down and tried to walk all over top of it so we couldn't move off frequency. Sometimes I wonder.
Now he's arguing with the guy, and I can't really hear the net control station at all, but K3JRZ's not transmit. He's stopped his POTA at this point in time.
And you guys jumped right on over on top of them. And like you said, you didn't even ask if the frequency was in use. You just started in.
Sounds like somebody else talking, saying they didn't even check if the frequency is in use. They just started a net. Yeah, that's what they do. Not all of them. Not all of them. Not all net control operators are that much of a jackwagon. Not all of them are that way, okay? I want to make it clear. I don't think all of them do this. But the ones that do this get called out like this guy is calling this other dude out.
Yeah, except the POTA station's been logged already for quite a while. On the POTA side on this frequency, the only reason he didn't hear him before is because the band keeps changing. When the band changed, he was happy to move off frequency, but your net control decided he was going to key up and complain that somebody was on your net frequency, which you already know is not an assigned, and it's an accepted, yes, and the
So the net control, most net control, or most planned nets have a backup frequency. Most of them will have a backup, maybe even two backup frequencies, a secondary and a tertiary frequency. Most of them will have that. They say, okay, if the frequency is in use, we'll meet on the backup frequency. And I have been calling POTA on frequencies before, never on 10 meters. 10 meters is very wide-banded. We have like from 28.3 all the way up to like 28.7 or 8 or something like that. I can't remember. The technician section of the band is 28.3 to 28.5, but the general and extra section of the band for a single sideband voice goes up higher than that. So we have a long area, very wide-banded area, as compared to like 20 meters, which is only like 14.225 to 14.350 for generals. So you're talking about barely over 100 kilohertz wide there, where 10 meters is several hundred kilohertz wide, 28.3 to 28.678, something like that. There's a lot of room on the 10-meter band for you to move your net to or pick a secondary frequency or for the POTA station to move. I have been activating POTA before, and I've had some very polite net control operators come on, and maybe they'll even work me, be able to say, hey, this is, and they'll give their call sign, you know, I hear you calling POTA. It's like, yeah, I got you in the logbook, man. You're 5'7", 5'8". Cool, thanks. Hey, by the way, we have a net starting on this frequency in about 15, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever the time is. Would you mind moving for the net? And I'd be like, and, you know, if he is nice and polite, I'd say, sure, man, I'll move for you, no problem. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. We were calling CQ on 20 meters, I think it was 20 meters, at the Rendezvous event in the Ozarks in October of this year, October of 2024. Kyle and I were there. And I worked, I worked a few stations. Then Kyle got on sideband, and he was working, I think he had his 891. So he was working 100 watts, but he was on sideband, not CW. And some guy gets on there and says, hey, we got a net that started 2 KCs below you. Would you mind moving? And Kyle's like, well, I only need 2 or 3 more contacts. I'm just going to stay here and get my contacts, and I'll be done. But their net just was, yeah, very bad QRM from their net. So they could have dropped down to a KC or 2 themselves and been not interfering with the station that was there before them as well. So you kind of get it from all sides sometimes. Let's finish up this video real quick from K3JRZ, because I think he handles it very well. First, let me tell you about Mezzi and Poloni coax. If you're doing POTA, or even if you're net control, and you're running a net station, or if you're out there just working HF in the field, I recommend Mezzi and Poloni coax made in Italy. You can save a 10% on all of their products, coax connectors, tools, everything, with the coupon code of HR2 cables. I'll put a link in the description below to the Gigaparts website and to Mezzi.it, which is their own website in Italy. HR2 cables saves you 10% off of everything on both of those websites for Mezzi and Poloni. Be sure to thank them for sponsoring Ham Radio 2.0.
POTA operator was just fine with that. Unfortunately, he couldn't hear anybody until I relayed the information. And your operator, your net control with his linear, decided he was going to sit there and
He's got a linear amplifier and nobody can hear him? Wow.
ramble, just so we couldn't finish the contact and move on. So basically I was self-defeated. I can't believe this.
Apparently the other station from it just doesn't know when to give up. There was a net that somehow got onto my frequency after about 15 minutes or so. After I've been on the air for 15 minutes or so, they kind of snuck in behind me, underneath of me or whatever. Alpha Golf 7, Quebec Hotel. Michael, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, people, you can't get bent out of shape if the station can't hear you. You know, I've moved frequency plenty of times when another station, either a POTA station or a net somehow comes on top of me. And
I hope that music doesn't interfere with my video.
and then I realize that I can hear them, and then I will move. And a lot of times when I've called to another POTA station or just some station calling CQ, they don't hear me. It happens. It's radio. And by
Very, very well said. Long story short, you don't own the frequency, and neither do I. None of us owns the frequency. If you get out there and say frequency in use, frequency in use, frequency in use, and give your call sign, and no one replies, and you start calling CQ, even if you're net control, you should get on there and say, is a frequency in use? And then if you hear someone come back, yeah, I'm calling CQ POTA. Do you want to work me and get CQ POTA, CQ POTA? And then you can be polite and say, would you mind moving? If it's me, I want to put you in my POTA logbook. I want to work you. I want your call sign, your name and call sign in my logbook. And then if you're polite and ask me to move, I'll be happy to move. But if you're just going to plow on through me, or try to, this guy apparently tried to plow through, and that other guy said he was using a linear amplifier, but you couldn't hear the guy. You couldn't hear the net control station, so I don't know. And of course, the AG7 station was in a different location than K3JRZ was, so changing locations gets you to hear more things on the band. You might be able to hear better here and there. You might have better access to different parts of the band and whatnot. So it makes sense that he couldn't hear this guy. This was a POTA activation done exactly the way it should have been done. Okay, because we didn't see K3JRZ. We didn't see him key up again after this guy was trying to run him over with this net. And let's face it, these nets, I think these nets get a little bit out of control. If you ever Google HF nets, there's one that happens almost every hour of the day, 7 days a week. I'm like, really? Do we need 4,700 nets every day? I don't have anything against nets. I checked into 2 or 3 nets on my last road trip. I got my TS480HX in the car. I think I checked into the OMIS net and maybe 1 or 2 others. I don't remember exactly where they were. But if I hear someone calling for a net asking for check-ins, I heard the YL net. I just kept rolling through that because the YL net calls for check-ins and you never hear any YLs on it. And I'm like, what's the point? But it's still a net out there that has a right to a frequency as much as I do, but you don't have more rights to it. So have you ever been trying to activate POTA, or have you been calling CQ on a frequency and had a net try to run you off? Have you ever done that? If you are a net control operator, how would you handle someone on the frequency your net is scheduled on, because it's not your frequency? How would you handle someone, if you have a net that starts in 15 or 20 minutes and you hear someone on the frequency that the primary frequency that the net is on, how would you handle that? I would like to know your thoughts. Put a comment in the description below and check out these videos over here, which YouTube thinks you want to watch next. 73.